Hello everybody, it's CJ9899 and I'm going to be starting another new series. This time it is going to be called Conventional Panels 101. So this series, I know I did a series called Mini Panels 101, which I did about 4 panels because that's all I had. But now I'm actually going to expand this and talk about other panels, and right now it's going to be conventional panels. And a really great example that I thought I'd start with is the Mircom FA-1000. So, let's get into it. Alright, so this panel is obviously made by Mircom, as you can tell. It is more common in Canada because typically Mircom is from Canada, though you will see it sometimes in the United States, but not too much. These panels are very nice, actually. I like them. I'm just going to actually open up the door. But yeah, these panels have 8 zones, and or 8 zones by default, and they have 4 NACs, and it is expandable. Actually, most FA-1000s are expandable up to, get this, 72 zones. So they're actually quite a big panel if you want to do a lot with it. But this panel actually already has an expander card in it to make it 16 zones. Let's take a look at the main controls. Alright, so here we have your system reset button. This button is obviously fairly straightforward. You press it and it will do a system reset. That is fairly simple. It is a gray button. Here you have your fire drill button. That will basically just activate the NACs, or the notification appliance circuits, or bell circuits, whatever you want to call them. And usually it actually won't activate anything else. Like, it won't put it in an alarm, it won't activate any relays, and that actually can help, because if you don't want to call monitoring or anything, you can just press this button and it won't even activate the dialer. Acknowledge, I don't really know why they put this button on this panel, because it's really not needed, because if this panel goes into trouble or into alarm, I believe all you can do is press buzzer silence, or that'll just shut the panel up, though I'll actually get back to that in a second. General alarm, what this will do is just put the panel into evac mode, so this will just basically alarm it from the panel. Everything will start to go off. Also, if it is set up for 2-stage, it will actually activate the 2nd stage. Lamp test, that's fairly straightforward. You have your auxiliary disconnect. This will disconnect things like relays and stuff like that, and I'm actually going to demonstrate that. See, that puts the panel in trouble. And that's what Mircom panels sound like. The acknowledge button doesn't seem to really do anything. Yeah, I don't know what the point of it was, but there's the buzzer silence there. That's what's next. If we press auxiliary disconnect again, puts the system back to normal. You have your buzzer silence, that just shuts up the piezo if panels in alarm or trouble, and then down here you have your signal silence. Alright, now for the LEDs. Here you have your test/configuration mode, and they're just kind of off camera here, but you can see there are dip switches. Down here there are 8 dip switches, and this is how you program the panel. I'm not going to go fully into programming because it is actually rather complicated, but because you have to have the manual, and there's all sorts of different LEDs that light up. But it's just 8 dip switches. This panel does have a lot of features, and it is a great panel, I think, but it can get kind of complicated when it comes to programming. You have your signal, or actually no, I'll get to that later. So yes, this will light up if any of these 8 dip switches are activated, and in order to clear this, after you're finished, you have to hit reset. Remote failure is for your annunciator, and I do have an annunciator hooked up here just off the screen as well, which you will see when I activate the system. This will light up if the panel does not communicate with the annunciator properly, or if there's something wrong. Common trouble will light up if there's any sort of trouble in the system. It could be battery, it could be a zone that's like the resistor's missing or anything like that. AC, this light will always be on as long as there's AC power. Common alarm, this lights up whenever there is an alarm active. pretty straightforward. Common supervisory, it'll light up whenever there's a supervisory. These two are actually interesting. Well, display faults will light up if the main display here, for any sort of reason, will fails or something goes wrong with it. And of here you have also your battery / charging trouble. So that's just if there's a battery trouble, if there's something wrong with the charger. And an interesting backstory is that the FA-1000 was released in 1998, and up until I think about 2013, these panels did not have a display fault. And this is what I was told by a technician from work, so all credit goes for him for this discovery. But from what I've been told, older FA-1000s did not have this display fault. So if it did, it would still show a display fault trouble, except there would be nowhere for it to show. All it would show is a common trouble, but it wouldn't tell you what kind. So that's actually how they added the display fault, because it wouldn't tell you there was a display fault on older FA-1000s made before 2013, I believe. This one is from 2018, so it's really new. CPU fault, that will light up if something goes wrong with the main motherboard, or if the panel is not programmed properly. These panels are actually known for freaking out and spazzing out actually quite a lot when when something's not programmed right. For example, when I was trying to program the 8-zone expander card, it was kind of hard at first because I wasn't setting the jumpers right, and it was spazzing out and showing like 20 CPU faults. But it doesn't damage the panel, it just kind of freaks out. And ground fault will light up whenever there's a dead short to ground. And so say if there's something nicked in a NAC wire or a zone wire that's touching, usually let's say the conduit that is ultimately connected to the panel. Here you have your 4 NAC LEDs. Those will light up if the NAC goes into trouble. And then here you have your zones. So you got 1 to 8, 9 to 16, and then 17 to 24. This panel is expandable up to 72 zones, but this one obviously has just 16, but it's 8 by default. So finally down here you have other dip switches. I've already talked about this. This is your configuration. But here you have your 4 signal zone disconnect. So if you flip any of these up, it will disconnect any of the NACs. And then you just have your zone disconnect switches, dip switches, which is actually pretty handy that they're dip switches. Another thing is that walk test on these panels is quite interesting, because when you put the panel into walk test, you actually have to put up the dip switches for what zones you want to have activate during walk test. And that's kind of interesting because usually all other panels out there, walk test, they're already pre-programmed. But I guess I can see like maybe they only want to put certain zones into walk test to test maybe a circuit that's bad, because actually in Canada you're not allowed to use walk test for full inspections. You have to set it off in full alarm. The only time you'd really use it is if you replace a pull station or something and you don't want to set it off in full alarm to test it. And you can have a maximum of 15 zones at a time in walk test. Okay, so now let's take a look at the actual design of the FA-1000. So this FA-1000 is actually a newer FA-1000, because the newer ones, the door, yes, you're going to see me quite a bit in these shots, but the newer doors for these FA-1000s, they are a full plastic with, you got your Mircom logo down there, and the inside, this whole display, the whole buttons and displays are actually one big dress panel door. But older FA-1000s, actually, you would have two. If you want it to be expanded, you would actually have, this would basically be cut in half, and you'd have a chassis in here that would have the display on it, and then one motherboard up here. And if it was expanded, you could actually install another chassis down there, and it'll give you the other 70, or how many other zones after 24 to 72. I'm not going to do the math right now, but you get the idea. But yes, those are older. This one's newer. You actually have to, I think you have to get a special door in order to do something like that on these ones. Or these ones may not even be expandable anymore, I have no idea. But, you know, also down here you got your Mircom logo, you got stickers on the door, and yeah. So, now we are going to open up the FA-1000 and take a look on the inside.